Good morning, friends. It's Nancy, and I'm here to do a flip through of my most recent journal that I finished Saturday afternoon. Maybe Saturday morning. So this is another quilted cover. I used a vintage quilt that I got at an estate sale to make the cover. It has 3 signatures that you can't see because I have this vintage doily covering it, but this comes off easily, so let's try that. It's 9 inches by about 6 inches. I have some vintage seam binding here and some vintage buttons and a little silver sewing machine there, so that can come right off. Let me show you the cover. I think that's about the halfway point. So I decided to experiment and try to do 3 signatures. I felt like it would open up flatter and make it easier to work in, and I believe I am correct. So I'll show you what I've done, and then you can help me judge that. Okay, are we in the center more or less? Okay, so opening it up, I'm caught on my cord. Opening it up, the inside is fabric, and I have included a little tag here. This is from an old magazine, and has a little bit of tatting and a pearl button, and a vintage doily. It has a little bird here. Okay, so on the cover, this is from an old quilt book, and I've added some vintage fabrics here that were cut to make maybe a grandmother's fan. Yeah, I think it would be grandmother's fan. And a little crocheted pansy there. I've decorated the back of this with just a little fussy cut from a quilting magazine. This is an actual label from a needle book. This is from a vintage card, and inside I have an image from a quilt book. There's some more fabric scraps there, and a little decoration. It's a drawing of a Dutchman's puzzle. And there's another little button there, and on this side has some patterns. But again, a Dutchman, or what's this one? Crosses and losses. And I've just got this vintage yo-yo here that I pinned to the fabric. This came from a pattern, an old pattern. This is 1898 from a dry goods store where you would maybe buy your fabrics for quilts. Some tatting. Here's an image from a book and some crochet trim. Here's a little picture. Granny working on her applique quilt. This is some packing paper, and it opens right up. This is a little image cut from a book, of a quilt book. There's a little story about a little story about making a quilt with Aunt Jane of Kentucky. Some more pattern. Here's a needle book that opens up, and there's space to do some journaling there, but it's also an uptuck. So this is from an old pattern, and it just gets tucked here. Some more crocheted trim that I stitched on. Whoops. Another yo-yo. This is a business return envelope, I guess, from British Textile Mills in Montreal. And inside I've lined it with some paper, and here's a little image of granny stitching on her quilt. Little tuck spot here. This is reproduction from a book, sewing machine. Here's some ladies stitching on their quilts. I just tucked that in here from this image from a quilt book. Here's a grandmother's flower garden block. Just stitched it right into the signature there. This is a little pattern, and it came with, allegedly, because it looks badly cut, but it's the design to make this quilt block. And here's a little tag that I made in a video last week. Here's a 9 patch that I hand stitched onto some avocado dyed paper. Little poem there. Some more vintage fabric. Some more packing paper, I believe. I stitched on some old fabric here. Some buttons. That opens up, so there's room for journaling. And that's some trim from a handkerchief. Another little image of a quilt block. That's called Kansas Sunflower. This I've got in a bundle of papers. And it's about how to make a quilt. And it shows you, you need 15-inch squares and 3-inch borders. And if you're making this is a 48-inch bed. I don't know what that is. Is that a double? Then you'd need 20 squares. Has a material estimate, lots of figuring, and I thought that is very cool. Okay, this is from Travel Diary. It opens right up, and then it opens right up again. This is from a magazine. Some packing paper. Look at this little lad. He's got his orange kitty, so you know it's a bad kitty. This is some vintage lace and a card of safety pins. Little journal card I made there. Fussy cut granny from a book on some avocado paper. This was the packaging from a quilt bat. I wonder why I didn't notice that when I did it. Oh, probably because I was focused on what was on the page rather than what the page was. Okay. The other half of that block. Some eyelet lace, and this is a reproduction card that I cut from a book. A crochet trim. Made a little tuck with this book image, and this is a tag that I made in a video last week. I'm going to show you the paper first. So this paper is some brown wrapping paper, but somebody had sketched out a quilt block on it. So I just added some stitches, some fabric, some more fabric, and made a little pocket out of it. And inside, this is some instructions about how to use some pattern pieces to make a quilt. But it's blank on the back, so lots of good writing space. And then I have this advertisement that I cut out from a book. Page from a quilt pattern book. Another little 9 patch of vintage fabrics. And there's another drawing that's got blank paper on the back. Not a drawing, an illustration. Just some tea-dyed note paper. This is some wrapping paper that had a pattern drawn onto it. Image cut from a book with a little bit of crochet trim. And these are the actual pattern pieces for this block. And there was nothing exciting on this back of this page anyway, so I thought, oh, I'm going to save those. This is a crocheted trim. That's from a book. Some tea-dyed paper. Quilt pattern book. There's the other side of that drawn, sketched out pattern. A little bit of fabric, hand stitched with a button. And on this side I have a tag and another I want to say poem, but it's more like a verse, I guess. Let's call it a verse. I had this piece of ledger paper, but it had a tear in it. And I didn't want to lose that, so I just zigzag stitched it and glued it onto that page. Lots of journaling space there. Here I've made this little scrappy pad, and we're at the back with another tag that I made. So this journal is complete and ready to go to its new home. If it's one that you're interested in, I hope that you'll go take a look at my Etsy shop and see if you're ready to make a new home for it. All right, thank you so much for joining me today. Come back again later on today. I'm going to have another video. I'm working on a big hardcover journal right now. And yeah, that's about it. We'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.